pro-free trade. Basically, it's practically a religion for people on the right, in the US, for conservatives on the right. They are pro-free market and pro-free trade. Well, Donald Trump is not pro-free trade. So a big part of his campaign has been against free trade, and he thinks that a lot of our free trade agreements have hurt the United States, or at least hurt the working class in the US. So this is unusual. I mean, it would be like if I said, imagine if I said the supreme patriarch, the #1 Buddhist in Thailand, he doesn't believe in rebirth. Be like, well, wait a minute, he's the head of Thai Buddhism. Like, he's got to believe in rebirth, right? That's how you'd be thinking. It'd be very strange. Like, the idea that the candidate for the Republican Party doesn't believe in free trade, it doesn't make sense. It would be like a Christian saying, yeah, I don't really think Jesus rose from the dead. But I'm still a Christian, but I don't really believe he rose from the dead. It doesn't make sense. So that's the second thing that makes him very unusual, is his ideology doesn't fit the party he's a candidate for. Okay? The third reason he's very unusual, and this fits with #2, is he somehow managed to win the candidacy, even though the party leaders didn't want him and didn't like him. Now, America has some pretty open elections, so a lot of people are allowed to run to become a party's nominee. It's not that hard to be a candidate, actually, but it's very hard to win if you don't have the support of the party. We have a very simple theory in American politics. The party gets who they want, okay? And that's why it's so important for people to get in good with party leaders. Party leaders have access to a lot of money, and they have access to a lot of experience, and they have access to state parties in every state who can help you out. So one of the solid rules of American politics is, if the party leaders don't like you, you're not going to win the nomination. Well, party leaders hate Trump, and he won anyway. Okay? So it's a very strange thing. He is a party crasher. In other words, his own party they don't want him. Okay? But he ran and he got the most votes. So whoever gets the most votes wins. So it's very unusual. Like, we have nothing like it in American history. He doesn't believe what most Republicans believe, and the party leaders did not support him. Okay? So he's this outsider. So it's a very unusual situation. The next thing I want to talk about is why I think Hillary Clinton is a much better candidate, and why I really hope she wins tomorrow. Okay, I think Donald Trump. There are interesting things about him, and the bottom line is no one knows the future for sure. We could roll the dice on a strange guy like Trump, and who knows? Maybe he'd be the best president ever. I don't know. I mean, nobody knows the future, right? Who knows? But I don't think it makes sense to roll the dice with the presidency. That doesn't make sense. Okay? You're supposed to roll the dice with your disposable income. Like, oh, I got a couple $1,000, I don't need it, I'll roll the dice. Okay? I don't think you should roll the dice with the American presidency. Especially because America has such a unique place in the world. And people in the world look to America for stability. So let me give you my reasons why I think Trump is a bad idea and Hillary is much better. And I'm going to go quickly here because I don't want to take up too much time. The first thing is, obviously, Hillary is way more qualified. So if you just look at the resume, Hillary might have the best resume of any person who has ever run for president. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, we have people like, George Washington. He defeated the British, he's just got one line on his resume. His resume is like, I defeated the British. So obviously that's impressive. But he didn't have any political experience. Okay? Like, Hillary was Secretary of State and a senator. Okay? So if you look at everything, the fact that she's been in the White House before, the fact that she's been a diplomat around the world, she's, bottom line, the most qualified candidate the United States has ever had. More than her husband, more than Obama. Her resume is just better. Okay? And it's just, to me, it's just common sense. You want the person who's got the better resume. Like, being the American president is not an easy job. So you need someone with background, someone with knowledge, and Trump just doesn't have background knowledge to do it. Okay? That's the first thing. The second reason has to do with their personalities. So I'm sure you followed some of this Basically, Hillary is a pretty normal, stable person. She admits herself that she's not a very good politician. She's not very charming. She's not super likable. And she totally admits it. Her husband, Bill Clinton, is. He's a charmer. Okay, he's got the magic. Obama has the magic. Okay, and Hillary says, I don't have the magic. So she's not the most likable person in the world. Okay, but to me, that doesn't disqualify you. Okay, so you don't have like Brad Pitt's star quality. So what? Okay, stars are supposed to have star quality. I don't think the president has to have star quality. And you know, Hillary said, I saw her in an interview a couple months ago, she said, this is exactly what she said. She said, I'll be honest, I don't know how to get elected, but I know what to do when I get there. And to me, that's what I want. Like, I don't care if someone is the most likable person in the world, or I don't care. I want a competent president who knows what they're doing when they get there. And she's solid. Like, she's not, whatever she does, it's not going to be something stupid. It's not going to be, she's not emotional. She doesn't make rash decisions. But everything we know about Donald Trump is that he is angry and emotional. He can't take criticism. He just, I mean, in the last year, if you check the New York Times had a special section this week on all the different people that Donald Trump has insulted in the last year. It's 2 pages long with print like this. I mean, he's a professional insulter, okay? Like, if anyone criticizes him, he just criticizes them. And not criticizing in a professional way, in very rude, childish ways. You know, he called Carly Fiorina. Carly Fiorina was one of the Republican primary candidates. And he said, she's too ugly to be president. Like, it's just mean. It's just mean and childish, and frankly, it's stupid. Like, it's below what you would expect from someone who wants to be president. You know, all of us are human, all of us have flaws, but the president should bring out the best, not bring out the worst. You know, Donald Trump's personality is like the worst of all of us. Okay, like when you get angry and bitter and you just lash out at people and you're mean and rude and racist, that's what Donald Trump is. You know, that kind of emotion, I don't want in the presidency. Like, I don't want a person who gets angry to be president. So he's got the wrong personality. The third thing is character and integrity. Now, there are a lot of people who look at both Donald and Hillary and say, they're both bad, they're both evil, they're both corrupt. Probably about a third of Americans think that way. And they look at it as, well, they're both bad, I've got to choose the lesser of the two evils. A lot of Americans think this way. They are wrong, okay? They are wrong. There's one bad candidate in this election, and there's one good candidate, okay? Hillary is not evil, okay? Hillary has a lot of people who don't like her, and basically the far-right conservatives in the US, they've been going after Bill and Hillary Clinton since he won in 1992. So since 1992, they pay attention to everything she says, every little mistake she makes, and they try to take them down. So the Clintons have been fighting political enemies for 30 years, okay? And, you know, Hillary's been accused of dozens of things, dozens. The most recent thing is she used her home computer to do some work. That's what she did. She used a home computer to exchange emails. Now, you shouldn't do that if you work for the US government. It's potentially unsecure, obviously. Okay, you shouldn't do that. But in Republicans' mind, this is like she should be executed for this, okay? So of course, they've read through 600,000 emails, and there's nothing wrong, and there's no evidence that she was hacked or anything like that. There's just nothing there. And that's how it's been for 30 years. She's been examined and studied and criticized more than anyone else you can imagine, and they never find anything on her. And my opinion is, if you don't find anything on someone after 30 years, that means there's nothing there to find, okay? If she was just corrupt, as they say, they would have found something, okay? They never find anything, because the bottom line is, they can't beat her brain. They can't beat her policies. She's smarter than they are, right? And when someone's smarter than you and you can't beat them that way, you have to beat them with insults, and you have to beat them with false accusations. So this is not a choice between the lesser of two evils. Okay, you've got a pretty bad guy, and you've got a very solid woman who's way more qualified. And then the last thing which relates to this has to do with just predictability. I think even if you don't agree with anything I've said, the biggest problem with Donald Trump is he is unpredictable. No one knows what he's going to do, and that includes him. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He changes his views, like not just every day, but I mean within the hour. I mean, he gets interviewed and says one thing, and then he talks to someone else and he says the opposite. Many times, okay? Many times. He lives in the moment. He's very spontaneous. He just, whatever he's talking about, he's talking about. He's making it up as he goes along. Okay, he's running for president. He's making it up as he goes along. Okay, he just has a personality that works. Okay, and one thing about Hillary is she is solid and predictable. Some people might say, oh, she's boring. She's going to maintain the same system. Well, at least for America, well, we are the world's only superpower. Okay, we've got problems, we've got issues, but the United States is not on the verge of collapse. Like if you listen to Republicans, they talk about the United States like we are Somalia, you know, like where this is the end of the world, okay, and we need drastic change, we need a revolution. I don't think we need a revolution. Okay, the US has problems, we need to get better, but the bottom line is if Hillary just kept us going in the same direction, the United States would be fine and the world would be fine. We just don't know what Donald Trump's going to do, okay, and that's why it's a bad candidate. Last thing I want to talk about is who's actually going to win tomorrow. Okay, so I want to show you two websites to check out. The first website, this website is called 270 to win, T-O-W-I-N. Okay, 270 T-O-W-I-N. And this just has a map of states. And basically, the red states are states that it looks like Donald Trump is going to win. Red is usually the color for Republicans. Blue states are states that Hillary's probably going to win. And then any state that's gray is a state where we don't know who's going to win. It's a toss-up. It's a swing state, we sometimes call them swing states, or we call them battleground states. And if you add up the numbers, up there, you see that Clinton 252? That means that Hillary pretty much has about 250 electoral votes for sure. Now, nothing is guaranteed for sure, but this is just based on the best knowledge we have. She probably already has 252, which she just needs 30 more to get her over 270. Trump probably has about 163 for sure. So he needs more than 100 to get over 270. Now he can still do it, but it's going to be harder for him. So he has a more difficult path to get there. Okay. Now the other side I want you to check out. I'm just going to click the tab here. So this site is called this site is called 538. So if you just spell the words out, 538, because like I said, there are 538 electors, right, in total. And 538 is it's kind of like a political geeks website, and I guess I'm a political geeks. So this is very statistical. So this whole site is based on data and numbers. It's not just opinions. And the guy who runs the site is a guy named Nate Silver, and he correctly predicted 49 out of 50 states in 2008. Who was going to win the states? He got 49 out of 50 in 2008, and in 2012 he got 50 out of 50. Okay, and essentially these are his numbers, and I trust his numbers. So if you want to know what I think is going to happen, I will tell you to look at 538. So according to Nate Silver, Hillary's got about a 70% chance of winning, 72%, and Donald Trump's got about a 28%. So Hillary is favored, but not by much. Okay, so essentially what that means is this. Okay, if you want, you can do an experiment if you want. Okay, if you take out a coin, okay, if you flip it and you get heads, and then you flip it again and you get heads, that means Donald Trump's going to win. Okay, so if that happens, that's about the same chances that Donald Trump's going to win. Now, if you get tails on the first one, Hillary's going to be president. If you get tails on the second one, Hillary's going to be president. But if you happen to flip two heads in a row, that's about the chances Donald Trump has of winning. Okay? So please go to the temple. Make merits, please. Okay, say a prayer, a blessing. I don't want to see two heads in a row tomorrow. Okay, that's all I can say. All right, guys, thank you.
seen some transcripts talking when you were saying he changes his mind within a day or from interview or interview. I've seen him change his mind within a sentence. Sometimes you can read his transcripts and within one sentence he says the complete opposite thing again. So he's a unique politician. He is a politician now, actually, you have to say. He always says he's non-establishment, he's not a politician, but he certainly is now, I think. That was very interesting. I don't know if this is going to be quite as interesting for you guys. I'll be talking about, if you give me a little moment here, some of the dynamics of the United States' recent engagement with the Asia-Pacific region with a focus on ASEAN, and touch on some of the maybe potential outcomes for ASEAN whether Trump or Hillary gets elected. So in 2008, after what was a very grinding campaign, Obama became president. He became president with much optimism. In 2012, he was re-elected again. 8 years later, the world and the Asia Pacific have changed a lot. Obama has his detractors and his critics. He has his enemies, one of them running for president. But I think history will look back on him quite positively. He has achieved a lot, despite being hampered, despite his ambitions being hampered by domestic constraints, by not having the Senate, the Congress for 3/4 of his reign. In 2008, he gave a seminal speech in the Pacific. He called himself the first Pacific president. Coming from a president who was half black, who comes from Hawaii, which is in the Pacific, who grew up in Indonesia for 4 years. His mum, when he was a kid, used to have to teach him English. He lived in Indonesia. Saying that you're the first Pacific president, this was something that very much resonated. This resulted in a shift, a dramatic shift in American foreign policy towards Asia. What he called at the time, the pivot to Asia. This name didn't really catch on so much. Pivot is a basketball term, and there's like 2 basketballers in all of Asia. So this was later repackaged as the rebalance, where it means that the US would stop focusing on the Atlantic Ocean, we'd stop turning towards Europe,